The year 2025 has etched a tragic chapter in China's history, as torrential rains, devastating flash floods, and deadly landslides ravaged provinces from south to north. Hunan, Guizhou, Guangxi, Henan, Sichuan, Gansu, Liaoning, and even the capital city of Beijing were plunged into chaos. Muddy brown floodwaters swept away homes, vehicles, and lives, leaving behind heart-wrenching tales of loss, despair, and resilience. As citizens struggled to survive, glaring deficiencies in infrastructure, sluggish government responses, and the Chinese Communist Party's CCP efforts to control information sparked widespread outrage. This was not merely a natural disaster, but a stark depiction of a China grappling with a multifaceted crisis, a faltering economy, a fractured society, and political instability. Devastating floods, an unprecedented catastrophe. From late June to early July 2025, more than 27 major rivers across China breached flood warning levels, with water levels in some areas rising 4 meters above safety thresholds. In Guizhou's Rongjiang County, a historic deluge transformed towns into seas of murky water in just 7 minutes. Peak water flows reached 11,360 cubic meters per second, submerging homes, streets, and the region's largest commercial center, with floodwaters reaching the second floor of buildings. A second wave of flooding on June 28th worsened the devastation, with water surging to the 4th floor, obliterating everything in its path. Official reports cited 6 deaths, but videos circulating on social media showed bodies floating in the floodwaters, suggesting a far higher toll. Over 40,000 people were urgently evacuated, transportation systems collapsed, and communication lines were severed. In Hunan Province, Xianfeng City endured record-breaking rainfall exceeding a month's worth in just 12 hours, with over 350 millimeters of rain. This forced 38,000 people to abandon their homes, while tea and dragon fruit fields, the primary livelihoods of local farmers, were submerged, plunging thousands of families into poverty. In Guangxi, buildings slid down hillsides as waterlogged foundations gave way, while in Beijing, low-lying areas such as pedestrian underpasses, subway stations, and underground parking lots became deadly traps. According to Reuters, economic losses from floods and landslides are projected to exceed $10 billion by June 2025, threatening China's $2.8 trillion agricultural sector, a lifeline for millions of rural residents. Landslides, the silent killer. Alongside the floods, landslides emerged as a terrifying threat, particularly in mountainous regions like Yunnan, Hunan, and Guizhou. Relentless rains saturated the soil, causing hillsides to collapse in seconds. In Hunan, a massive landslide blocked a river's flow, triggering an unexpected flash flood that engulfed nearby villages. A residential balcony collapsed under the weight of the rain, severely injuring 2 people. In Guizhou's Lishan County, an entire building was swept away like a paper model, with bodies appearing in the muddy waters. A local resident recounted, "The ground beneath us trembled, then the entire hill collapsed. No one had time to escape. I saw my neighbor's house vanish in an instant." The threat of landslides persisted even after the rain subsided. Homes that withstood the initial deluge faced the risk of collapsing due to waterlogged foundations. Without adequate safety inspections, many families lived in constant fear. Meteorologists warned that the plum rain season, East Asia's monsoon peak, had not yet ended. Some areas recorded up to 400 millimeters of rain in a single day, a dangerously high threshold that could trigger more deadly landslides. In western Yunnan, villages were completely isolated as roads were buried, and behind every hill loomed the silent threat of another potential slide. Heart-wrenching stories of survival. Amid the raging floods, stories of survival underscored humanity's fragility in the face of nature. Zhao, a 27-year-old from Rongjiang County, Guizhou, was among the fortunate survivors. When floodwaters engulfed her car, she had mere seconds to make a life-or-death decision. Unable to open the doors due to water pressure, she climbed through the sunroof, clinging to the roof of a toll booth and a fire hose to escape. From there, she witnessed the floodwaters crashing against walls, creating massive waves. "I called for help, but no one could reach me. I just prayed to survive and see my twin children again," she recounted, choking back tears. After her escape, she ran home to embrace her 2-year-old twins, overwhelmed by the miracle of her survival. Not everyone was as lucky. In Longping Village, Shanfeng County, Hunan, a centenarian stood in floodwaters up to his shins, his eyes filled with grief as he watched his home being destroyed. "I've lived a century, but I've never seen floods this horrific," he said. An elderly woman with silver hair wept in the mud, her children unable to reach her due to blocked roads. In Guangdong, an elderly couple was swept away with their home, leaving their family in agony as their whereabouts remained unknown. In Longan County, 3 people drowned in an underground parking lot when floodwaters suddenly poured in, turning it into a watery grave. In Chongqing, a story touched hearts across the nation. Li, a 35-year-old single mother, struggled to save her 2 young children as floodwaters filled their home. With water rising to her chest, she placed her children on a floating table, pushing it toward rescuers. But the current was too strong, sweeping the table away before help could arrive. Li screamed in despair as her children disappeared into the flood. Miraculously, a volunteer later found the children clinging to a tree several kilometers away, alive but terrified. Government's feeble response, rising public anger. As citizens battled floods and landslides, the Chinese government faced fierce criticism for its slow and opaque response. In Lishan County, Guizhou, authorities claimed the heavy rains had ceased and shifted to routine flood management, but citizen-recorded videos revealed far greater devastation than official reports suggested. The true death toll appeared to be concealed, fueling public outrage. Commentator Li Muyi bluntly condemned the CCP. "The party never prioritizes the people. To survive, citizens must save themselves or rely on each other." He urged people to bypass official organizations like the Red Cross, suspected of misappropriating aid, and deliver help directly to victims. In Beijing, despite issuing red alerts and elevating flood response to level 1, severe flooding persisted. Pedestrian underpasses, subway stations, and underground parking lots turned into death traps. Over 1,000 rescuers were deployed to Taiping Town, Henan, but they raced against time and struggled with destroyed terrain. In remote areas with severed communications, communities remained stranded without timely aid. In Chongqing, floodwaters submerged apartment buildings up to their top floors, but rescue efforts were hampered by landslide-blocked roads. The government's lack of transparency further eroded trust. Social media videos showed floating bodies and collapsing homes, yet state media focused on rescue efforts while withholding accurate casualty figures. A Guizhou resident fumed. "They say only a few died, but I saw dozens of bodies in the water. They're hiding the truth." This distrust deepened public despair, forcing citizens to organize their own relief efforts and share information through unofficial channels. Humanitarian crisis, long-term consequences. The floods and landslides have unleashed not only immediate devastation, but also long-term challenges. The risks of disease outbreaks, water contamination, and infrastructure collapse threaten millions. In Guizhou, shortages of food, clean water, and medicine have left residents in dire straits. Overcrowded emergency shelters struggle to accommodate tens of thousands of evacuees. Agriculture, the backbone of many rural communities, has been decimated. In Longping Village, Hunan, nearly 1,000 acres of tea and dragon fruit fields were submerged, pushing farmers toward prolonged poverty. In Guangxi, 14 rivers reached critical flood levels, and landslides in the dark buried entire families in mud before rescuers could arrive. Local authorities escalated emergency responses for both floods and geological disasters, but for residents, these warnings offered little comfort. They face a harsh reality: collapsed homes, sliding hills, and rivers no longer following their old paths. A Hubei resident lamented, "We've lost everything: homes, crops, hope. The government says they'll help, but we only see them on TV." Fragile infrastructure. The looming earthquake threat. Beyond floods and landslides, the specter of earthquakes looms large, especially after minor tremors in Guangdong. China's substandard infrastructure, often derided as Tofu-Dreg construction, leaves citizens without safe shelters. A notorious example is a building constructed by China Railway Corporation in Thailand, which collapsed despite being 1,000 kilometers from the epicenter, killing dozens. "Where is it safe to hide from an earthquake?" an elderly viewer asked. But the grim answer is that few places in China are truly safe. Unlike Japan or Taiwan, where buildings withstand 7 to 9 magnitude quakes, Chinese structures often crumble quickly. The government offers little training on disaster survival or preparedness, citing the need to prevent panic. This weak infrastructure exacerbates the toll of floods and landslides. In Beijing, collapsed roads and bridges paralyzed transportation, hindering rescue efforts. In Sichuan, dams were forced to release water to avoid collapse, triggering new floods downstream in a vicious cycle of disaster. Climate change, the perfect storm. Meteorologists describe the 2025 floods as a once-in-a-century extreme weather event. Climate change is intensifying the frequency and severity of heavy rains, particularly in mountainous areas prone to flash floods and landslides. According to climate expert Meng Gao from Hong Kong Baptist University, accurately predicting the location and intensity of heavy rainfall remains a significant challenge, especially in complex rural terrains. A cascading environmental nightmare unfolds. Rain floods the land, soil collapses into rivers, rivers overflow to destroy towns, and dams release water, causing new floods downstream. In Hunan, 220 millimeters of rain in 3 hours killed 8 people in 2 rural towns, while Guizhou endured double its average June rainfall in just 72 hours. The plum rain season, coinciding with the ripening of plums along the Yangtze River, reached unprecedented intensity. Scientists warn that such extreme weather events will become more frequent without climate change mitigation. However, the Chinese government appears more focused on controlling information than addressing long-term environmental challenges, leaving citizens anxious about the future. A call for self-reliance, unity in crisis. Amid the disaster, commentator Li Mui's message resonates as a wake-up call. To survive, people must save themselves or rely on each other. He urged citizens to deliver aid directly to victims, bypassing organizations like the Red Cross, suspected of mismanaging funds. With government support falling short, solidarity and compassion have become the last bastions of hope. In Hunan, volunteers organized to clear mud and distribute food, while in Guizhou, residents shared makeshift boats to rescue the stranded. Li Mui emphasized a spiritual message: only those with kind hearts are protected by heaven. This serves as both a moral compass and a rallying cry. Citizens are encouraged to follow independent channels like Lala School for uncensored information, as state media is accused of distorting the truth. the spirit of self-reliance and unity shines as a beacon amid the darkness of disaster. A nation on the brink. The floods and landslides of 2025 are more than a weather event. They are a stark warning of deep-seated flaws in China's political, social, and economic systems. As nature roars, the CCP's focus on information control over reality leaves millions paying the price with their lives, property, and futures. As floodwaters rise and hills collapse, the question looms: can China weather this storm, or is it the prelude to a broader crisis? Only time will tell. But for now, the Chinese people fight for survival with courage and solidarity as their only weapons.